Picture this. You are standing on a city bus. Suddenly, the driver just slams on the gas, accelerating down the street. If you are standing facing completely forward, looking at the windshield, you are almost guaranteed to tip backward and stumble. But if you turn sideways, looking out the window with your feet spread apart, you're perfectly fine. Why is that? It's physics. By turning sideways and widening your stance, you're physically shifting your mass, manipulating your center of gravity, and dodging a rotational force, or torque, that wants to knock you flat. You are basically fighting to stay in a state of equilibrium. So by the end of this lecture, you are going to understand exactly what static equilibrium is, the core mathematical formulas behind it, and most importantly, how to apply a foolproof, step-by-step strategy for solving these kinds of physics problems in the real world. All right, Section 1, defining static equilibrium. Let's nail down exactly what it means for a system to be perfectly balanced. The strict definition of static equilibrium is when the acceleration of a system is zero and accelerated rotation just does not occur. Meaning, the object is totally at rest or moving at a perfectly constant speed without any tumbling or spinning. We are looking for two specific things here. First, zero net linear force, so no accelerating up, down, left, or right. And second, zero net torque, meaning no rotational spin. Both of these have to be zero, absolutely crucial. Moving on to Section 2, problem-solving strategy steps. Since statics is really just a special case of Newton's laws, we've got a super reliable roadmap for conquering these problems. Here is your foundational strategy. Step 1, check for static equilibrium. Is the system accelerating or rotating? If the answer is no to both, you're good to proceed. Step 2, draw a free body diagram. Step 3, apply those equilibrium conditions we just talked about. Set your net force to zero, set your net torque to zero, and solve for your unknown variables. Oh, and an unofficial step 4? Always gut check your final answer to see if the magnitude and direction actually make sense. Wait, hold up. This is absolutely critical. Please do not skip step 2. Drawing a free body diagram is literally the make or break moment of this entire process. You cannot solve a statics problem in your head. You've got to isolate the object, meticulously label every single force, map out their exact directions, and note relative magnitudes. And for torque, you have to pinpoint exactly where that force is applied. If your diagram is off, your math is going to be off. Let's jump to Section 3, the pole vaulter example. Let's ground this with a real example. Imagine a track and field pole vaulter holding a 5-kilogram uniform vaulting pole perfectly horizontally. If he holds it exactly in the middle, right around the pole's center of gravity, intuition tells us that each hand supports exactly half the weight, so 24.5 newtons per hand. But what if he slides both hands down toward the right end of the pole? The pole's total weight hasn't changed, but the distribution of force across his two hands definitely has. Now, you might be wondering, why does the hand closer to the center of gravity suddenly take on way more of the weight? Think about it like moving a heavy couch with a friend. If you grab the far end and your friend grabs it right near the heavy middle section, your friend is doing almost all the heavy lifting. The right hand in our pole vault example is acting like the person holding the middle of that couch. The closer you are to the center of gravity, the more burden you carry to stop the whole thing from rotating downwards. All right, Section 4, the math in action. Let's take that couch analogy and back it up with the actual math to prove who is doing more work. Here is the setup. We have a 5-kilogram pole. The vaulter's hands are placed 0.900 meters apart. The pole's center of gravity is 0.600 meters from the left hand, which means it's 0.300 meters from the right hand. We need to calculate the exact upward force for the right hand and the upward force for the left hand. But wait, how do we choose a pivot point for our torque equation? This is a huge trick. We have two unknowns right now, the left-hand force and the right-hand force. If we pick a random pivot point, we're stuck with an equation with two unknowns, which is a nightmare to solve. But if we purposefully choose the left hand as our pivot point, the distance from the pivot to that left hand becomes zero. And since torque is force times distance, the torque of the left hand becomes zero too. It drops right out of the calculation. Always pick a smart pivot to simplify your life. Since we know we are in static equilibrium, that second condition kicks in. The algebraic sum of the torques is zero. In plain English, all the forces trying to spin this pole clockwise must perfectly balance out all the forces trying to spin it counterclockwise. So let's plug in the numbers. The force trying to spin the pole counterclockwise around our left-hand pivot is just the weight of the pole itself, pulling down from the center of gravity 0.600 meters away. The force fighting that, trying to spin it clockwise, is the right hand pushing up 0.900 meters away. Set those equal. 0.900 meters times the force of the right hand equals 0.600 meters times the mass of the pole times gravity. Run the numbers on the right side, 0.600 times 5 kilograms times 9.8 meters per second squared, and then divide that by our 0.900 meter lever arm. Bam, the force of the right hand is 32.7 newtons. Now for the left hand. We can actually switch back to the first condition for equilibrium here. The net forces equal 0. So total upward force equals total downward force. The upward force of both hands together has to equal the total downward weight of the pole, which means the force of the left hand is simply the total weight minus the force of the right hand. The total weight of a 5-kilogram pole is 49 newtons. 49 newtons minus the 32.7 newtons from the right hand leaves us with exactly 16.3 newtons of force for the left hand. And look at that, the math perfectly backs up our couch analogy. The left-hand force is 16.3 newtons and the right-hand force is 32.7 newtons. The left hand is doing exactly half the work of the right hand. Why? Because it is placed exactly twice as far from the center of gravity. Beautiful, right? Now, just a quick extreme example to show why direction matters. What if the vaulter holds the pole way out, so both hands are completely to the left of the center of gravity? In that case, the forces don't just change size, they change direction entirely. To keep the pole from dropping, the left hand literally has to push down, while the right hand acts as a pivot, pulling up with a massive amount of force. Catching that directional flip is exactly why that free body diagram is so essential. Okay, section 5, summary and next steps. Let's quickly wrap up the key takeaways from this lecture. Remember, static equilibrium means absolutely zero linear acceleration and zero rotational acceleration. Always start by drawing a detailed free body diagram. When calculating torque, pick a clever pivot point to wipe out an unknown variable. And finally, trust your gut. Always check if your final numbers actually make physical sense. We focused on a pole vaulter today, but think about this. How do these exact same physics rules govern the massive hydraulic forces needed to lift a medieval drawbridge? Or, even crazier, how do these torque equations explain why slouching causes such intense physical strain on your lower back? The physics of a massive drawbridge is the exact same physics operating right inside your own body. In our next explainer, we are going to build on these ideas of torque and leverage by diving into the fascinating physics behind simple machines.